All right, hello and welcome to another Expert Insight interview. My name is John Golden from Sales Pop, online sales magazine, and Pipeliner CRM, joining you as usual from sunny San Diego. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Eric Jorgensen. And where are you today, Eric?
Snowy Kansas City.
Snowy Kansas City. Well, it's probably better than our poor, right now, my poor, one of my colleagues and some friends up in LA are having a really hard time. So think some
Yes.
rain or snow would be a big help right now.
Yeah,
Um,
I hope
and
everybody's all right.
Eric's the CEO of Scribe Media. He's published two books with Scribe before becoming CEO. So that's an interesting part, as we'll get into, is if somebody uses a service and then actually joins the company, you know that they've had a pretty good experience. And your first book sold over 1 million copies.
Yes,
That's
sir. The
that
Almanac of Naval Ravikant.
that's an insane amount of. If anybody knows, and you can explain this during our interview about book publishing, but if anybody knows anything or has published books, they know that if you sell a few thousand, normally you're doing well.
Yeah, people are very over-indexed on what a successful book is because they only hear the numbers if they're really big.
Mm,
But yeah, I there's you can make the New York Times bestseller list with 10,000 copies. There's
yeah.
very, very, very few books ever that have sold 1 million copies, and we've given away 4 or 5 million more free
Right.
digital copies.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, tell me, Eric. So, what attracted you to working with Scribe in the first place when you went to publish your books? Because, and maybe just describe for the audience Scribe's business model and how it compares to traditional publishers.
Yeah, Scribe was founded maybe 10 years ago now by Tucker Max, who is an author, an incredible author. I think him and Malcolm Gladwell are the only authors to ever have four books concurrently on the New York Times bestseller list at the same time. So truly one of the greats and one of the original sort of blog to book authors.
Right.
Um, he had so many people just asking him for help on how do they publish a book, how do they write a book, how do you market a book, how do you make it great, what are the alternatives to traditional publishing as that model sort of doesn't fit as well in today's
Mhm.
world. And so he's 10 years ago, he started just helping people independently publish their books with an extremely high level of quality and polish for a fixed rate, and then being sure that the authors can have the full freedom to use their book however they want, whether it's grow their business, impact an
Mhm.
issue, or just fulfill their creative vision without having a publisher ultimately taking control of what they're trying to do. So as you said, I published with them in 2020. I'm a huge fan of the company. I think the vision was absolutely correct. And 10 years ago, it was prescient as
Mhm.
everything seems to have moved more and more this direction over the last, a lot of copycats have popped up over the last
Mhm.
couple of years. But, Scribe is the original and I think still the best,
Mhm.
creative product in this space. So I
Yeah,
went from a fan to an active participant now.
absolutely. And let's face it, the traditional publishers for a long time have really tried to denigrate, other publishing models, self-publishing, models like yours.
Yeah.
Um, but tell me, what are the advantages? Because there are a lot of it. I mean, you have on your website, you've got David Goggins' book, right? I mean, let's
Yeah.
face it. I mean, most publishers would have fallen over themselves to get David Goggins, right? To publish his book and all of that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
explain to me the advantages and why somebody like a David Goggins decided to go with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, Goggins is an incredible example. I mean, he's sold 5 million copies,
Yeah.
best-selling memoir of all time, and because he published with Scribe, he has the full upside of his book. So he owns
Mhm.
100% of his rights and royalties, and he can do whatever he wants with them, which means he can reinvest in his own growth at a much higher rate. He can sell his books at full margins when he does speaking gigs, and he controls all of his rights across all mediums and for all
Mhm.
of his IP forever. So there's a lot of nuance around like what actually happens when you go to a traditional publisher. And most people don't realize you're actually signing away
Yeah.
control of your copyright. You don't have the final say of what your author bio is or what the title of your book is or what the introduction said. Like it is a wild
Mhm.
thing to have something out there representing you that you don't actually control and you don't make most of the money from. And the expectation a lot of times is actually that if you get an advance, you're going to roll that back into marketing the book. These pieces are sort of revealed to authors
Yeah.
as they go through the process, and the agent is, my one line is the agent is a double agent. Like they are there to talk you into taking the deal that the publisher offers because their career relies on the
Yep.
relationship with the publisher, not the relationship with you.
Mhm.
So it's a really it's a model that made sense 100 years ago, 150 years ago. But given today where we are with print on demand, social media, and most books being sold on Amazon,
Mhm,
it's a very different landscape. And with so many people now, like yourself, having direct connection to your audience, your message resonates,
mhm.
who your customers are, who's going to buy the book, you can reach them, and you don't need this sort of big publisher to take control and like bless you to make your book successful. You've already done the work to make it successful, so you may as well reap the rewards.
Yeah, you know, having published one book with a major publisher, like McGraw Hill back in the day, myself, I understand. I mean, it was great. It was great to be associated with the McGraw Hill brand and all of that at the time. However, uh, you know, people think you get with the big publisher, they're going to put all their weight of their marketing behind you and all of this kind of stuff, but that actually isn't really how it pans out at all.
Yeah.
You know, obviously they put their marketing dollars behind their big titles, and a lot of the business books, you know, you kind of have to fend for yourself a little bit. So even back in the good old days, and even back with the top publisher like them, I think people's expectations were a little bit out of whack about, okay, if I get a big publisher, you know, it's gonna be fantastic, and that alone is going to propel me, but it doesn't.
Yeah, I think, and you published 2 books now, right?
Two
So
books,
did
yeah,
you
yeah.
make a different decision the next time
Yeah,
around?
yeah, yeah. We just did a self-publish the second time around because it was, you know, it was, to be honest, working with McGraw Hill was great, and I loved it, loved the people there and everything. But
Yeah.
second one, it was a little too early for them anyway. I think social selling at the time, but
Mhm.
also, I mean, we're saying like the benefits kind of, I wasn't really sure at the end of the day. I mean, the second book did, you know, would perform just as well, to be honest.
Yeah, I think, at the end of the day, and I tell every author this, like, you are the CEO of your book. You are
Hmm.
going to have to pull the plow to make it successful, unless you're Oprah. And I haven't talked to Oprah yet, so I haven't, so you've got to mentally go in prepared that you're going to be the one to market this book. And
Hmm.
once
Yeah.
you've sort of swallowed that pill, which is it's a tough pill to take, because you want to know, you want to believe that publisher is just going
Yeah.
to, knight you, and then everything's going to be easy forever. But that's not how it works. And so once you've accepted that,
Hmm.
then having full control and having the freedom to earn the money, use your book in a way that benefits your business. Most
Hmm.
authors that I work with have a life goal in mind, whether it's grow their business,
Yeah.
whether it's transition into retirement, whether it's earn more like speaking gigs or consulting gigs, or just
Hmm.
impact a social issue, whatever it is. The way to tackle that goal the best is to have the maximum freedom to use your book. Like, giving away my book has helped sell more copies. It's helped broaden awareness of like these
Hmm.
ideas that I think are important in there. It's helped me grow a venture fund. It's helped me land this job, like a
Right.
CEO gig. Like, um, everywhere I go, every author I talk to has incredible stories of how their book has been a tailwind for their business. And I'm sure you have some from both of your books.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think I think that's a really key point. Number one, it's a fantastic credibility builder. You know, people's, you know, when they see you've authored a book or two, you know, it's a great credibility, and it opens doors for you. Obviously, it helps you with getting speaking, getting on podcasts, all of this kind of stuff. So,
Uh,
and well,
if it's a good
actually,
book, if it's
yeah,
a
if
good
it's a
book.
good book. Actually, and if you want a if you want actually a good story out of publishing the book, it actually came out of the first book, the one from McGraw Hill. There's one chapter in it where I basically talk about CRM, right?
Mhm.
Customer relationship management, and I basically, and these were compared to, I was comparing battle and war stories to sales situations, right? That's what the essence of the book was. And it was David and Goliath, and basically, apparently, when I looked at the real story or whatever, you know, the king tried to give David the latest greatest armor, and he put it on, but he could hardly move, and he said, "To hell with this! I just have me slingshot, knock out the giant, and away you go." And I said, this is how salespeople often feel about when you impose a new CRM on them. You're putting this
Mm,
new shiny stuff and weighing them down and all of that. So, fast forward, I get a call from Nicholas Kimla, the CEO of Pipeline or CRM, who said, "I read your book and I read this section. I want to prove you wrong, and I'm going to show you a CRM that salespeople will really use." And he did, and that's why I joined the company. So there, if you want a good story, there you go. I joined the company from I did a few consulting gigs with him, and then he said, come on, be my partner, come on board," and
yeah.
so I did. So that's the power of publishing.
That's an incredible story because I think it shows another sort of mindset shift that I take a
Mhm.
lot of authors through when I talk to them, which is, a lot of people come in with a really narrow view of ROI. As we
Yeah.
mentioned, like a lot of books only sell a few thousand copies, and
Mhm.
to publish a great book at high quality costs, some tens of thousands of
Yeah.
dollars, so, closer to 50 if you need help writing it. And a lot of people come in like, well, doing the math on a spreadsheet of like, well, how many books do I need to sell over what time to like
Yeah.
get your actual ROI back out. And I'm like, that's not how you're going to get your ROI. You're going to
No.
get your ROI back when you're going to get one phone call from one person who read this, who hires you at a very high level thing, or who asks you to come speak and gives you a free ticket to a $10,000 conference and puts you
Yeah.
on the stage. And then you close $1 million in business from being on that stage. Like, you may only do that. You may do that, all of that, with only ever selling 1,000 books. But if you sell them to the right people, and if it's a great book, and if it's an excellent representation of you and who you are and what you know and what you believe, great things will happen that will change your life, and it'll be this inflection point. And you may not even ever know that it came from the book, but you have this
Yeah.
product out there working for you, representing you, and amazing things will just start to happen.
Yeah, and let's face it, as we said, with traditional publishing, the ROI is on. They measure the ROI in only one way, right? It's sales and the revenue they generate from it. They don't care
And,
about that you got an offer of a gig or you got a speaking thing. It's great if you sell more books, great, but they don't care about that part.
and they even more narrow than that. I had an excellent another independent self-published author come on my podcast, Paul Millard, and took me through. He's a former consultant, a retired consultant.
Mhm.
So he took me through. There's a whole super interesting history here. I actually had a friend of mine and a incredibly successful self-published author come on my podcast, Paul Millard, and he talked through the whole history of the publishing industry and all the different changes that they've made over the years as different technologies emerged. And there's this really weird devotion to protecting the profits around hardcover book sales. There's like a cultural
Mm.
desire to protect hardcover books, and to the point where like they make insane and bad pricing decisions that, like, this is a little in the weeds, but like Kindle books priced at $15, bad for the reader, bad for the author. The author actually makes less money than they would if it was priced at $9.99. The
Mhm.
reader has to pay more, but they price it there because it protects hardcover book sales, where those publishers have the biggest margins, because
Mm.
that's sort of the black box of like big offset prints and where they can control their margins. It's a really not a particularly constructive mindset, and it really frustrates me that
Yeah.
authors don't get the freedom to make those decisions for themselves.
Yeah. Well, considering how many people you see carrying around hardback books these days, or when you're on planes or whatever, I mean, it's such a small amount of people that it's crazy that that's still what they're trying to protect.
Yeah, yeah. There's so much advancement that's happened through digital and audiobooks,
Mm.
and those are so clearly, we can afford to make books much cheaper for readers and broaden the access to these. If and I, as an author, like, my digital copies are very cheap,
Mhm. Mhm.
because I just want more people to access these things. I think that's part of the reach that we've been able to have.
Yeah. So for those watching out there, they're thinking, I'm a consultant, I'm a business. I feel like I should write a book, but I don't know where to start, or I don't even know what the story is. I'm not even sure, what part of my story I should tell, or where. How do you advise people like that?
Yeah, I think there's a couple kind of good tells. If it's the right time for you to write a book, if you find yourself having the same conversation over and over and over again, that's landing with people and that they're appreciating. If you find yourself bottlenecked, your business bottlenecked maybe by the building of trust. I always imagine, like, if you could sit across the table from every interested prospect for 5 or 10 hours and have coffee and dinner and spend a day with them, like, would you have the kind of relationship where they would be eager to hire you and deliver on the transformation that you just
Mhm.
spent all of this time building trust and confidence that you can deliver? The answer is obviously yes, but you can't do that. So what's the next best thing? The next best thing is packaging your expertise and your wisdom in a format that scales, where someone on their own time and at their own leisure can pick up this, your book in this format that they associate with all of the other smartest people in history.
Mhm.
Take it in, and if they resonate with what you're saying, and if they sort of pick up from your stories, the expertise, the confidence, the trust, they're going to pick up the phone and they're going to hire you. And
Mhm.
I've heard so many of those stories, or sell you their business, or invest in your fund, or invite you to their conference. It is really, it is so hard to make a great book that those who do stand out.
Yeah.
It is an incredible, as you mentioned, it's an incredible credential. And,
Hmm.
50 years ago, when, or 100 years ago, when only 20% of the population had a college degree, having a college degree was this high signal
Right.
credential. And
Hmm.
now more than 70% has some form of college degree. So, like, how do you separate the people who really know their shit,
Hmm.
from the people who are just kind of pretending? And, it's hard to fake, you know, uh,
Yeah.
50,000 words of competence.
Yeah, because to be honest, I mean, you can see that whenever read a business book and you go through it or whatever, and then at the end of it, you go, uh, I don't know, maybe there was one thing of interest in there. Which, to be honest, I mean, take one thing away is not bad. But what I'm saying is, a lot of them are very thin,
Yeah.
precisely because of what you said. Is
Um,
I think you need to go deeper and think a little deeper. And I see that, like I said, I see a lot of thin books published. So, I mean, when somebody comes to you, how do you help them? Like, how do you really dig in and sort of help them understand if they're ready, if they have enough, if they need to go back and maybe think a little more or bring other ideas in?
it's almost everybody that we work with. There are some people that are just kind of like overestimating their abilities. But for most people, and I think for the people listening, if you have a solid track record of like delivering on your promises and you have unique experiences and you want to share that and you've had these same conversations and you see people resonating, it's actually more an exercise of narrowing possibilities
Mm,
and defining very specifically sort of what your expectations are, who you want to talk to. And most people have many, many books in them. They have lived many different books.
mhm,
They can help many different kinds of people. They care about many different kinds of things. And so, of the million words that you might have to say to the world, which 50,000 are this book that you want to write to this person at this moment in time?
mhm,
And what are we going to do with it? Why is this investment of time and effort going to be worth it for you? And there's two different important things. Like, one, I encourage everybody to have a selfish reason. Like,
yeah,
it's a big investment of time and effort and money, and it's an emotional journey. And there'll be times when you hate your book, and there'll be times when you doubt whether you have a book in you, and you have to persist through those. And so it takes a selfish reason to want to go all the way through this journey, and it also takes a concern for the reader. So you have to care about what you are delivering for them. It can't be, some people do write books that are just um, almost like revenge books or something. They need to tell their story,
yeah,
their side, like, and
vanity.
it's yeah, there's no thought to, like, what value are you delivering for the reader,
Mhm.
what problem are you solving for them, who should care and why. And those books sort of, even if they feel good to write for that person, inevitably fall flat because they're not helping someone. So just trying to sort that out and help people kind of find both of those and put it on
Yeah.
paper.
Yeah, those kind of people, they're better off just journaling and keeping it to
Yeah.
themselves. And it's the same.
Yeah.
It'll have the same out, and you'll avoid you avoid maybe some blowback. Because the other thing that you said is about you being really clear in your expectations and what you want to get out of this. Because again, as you said, your investment of time, you're putting yourself out there. You have to be ready for, somebody's going to write a crappy review of your book, and how are you going to feel are you somebody who's able to just take that and move on, or are you somebody who's it's going to derail you? Are you the type of
Yeah.
person who's going to get back on trying to answer them or whatever, or do crazy stuff? So I mean, I think there's a lot of things you have to consider. As you said, the time commitment, you're putting yourself out there. Is this something that you're happy to represent you?
Yes. Yeah. The test that I use is, and if you're going to undertake writing a book, as you know, like, picture somebody in your life that you look up to, that you're maybe even like a little intimidated by. Um, and if you're not proud to put this book in a envelope and mail it to them and be like, I'm proud of that. They're going to love it. I'm excited for them to read it. Then you didn't invest enough time and effort in the quality or the design or the production. So like, just don't half-ass it.
Yeah.
Like, that's my that's my summary.
Yeah, and let's face it. I mean, let me ask you the other thing, Eric. You see with AI, you see all these ads popping up like, "Oh, write your book with AI," "Publish your book with AI." Just give me a little bit of insight into this, because I see this cropping up a lot, and I know a lot of people are going to go, "Oh, great shortcut."
Yeah, I'm a huge tech guy, and I'm a huge
Yeah.
believer in using the best tool for the job. And I do think AI can help writers, refine and improve their
Mhm.
product. But this is a little technical, but the book is a power law outcome, and if you are just going to produce some fluff and put it between a cover, you're not going to get the results that you want. You're not going to impress that person. You're not going to get the call that you got to come join this
Mhm.
company or get a consulting or go. So, um, don't there's no shortcuts. Like, don't try to fake it. Use the best tool for the job. AI will help certainly many people. It is a very helpful sort of writing companion, brainstormer, maybe even editor, gives you feedback.
Mhm.
But I am very dubious of anybody who's going to produce a great book for you in a week, you know, just because they have an AI gen tool.
Yeah.
They will get 50,000 words, but now anybody can have 50,000 words. The question is does it accurately and appropriately represent you? And does
Mm.
it represent you well? And are you really proud to put it in front of people? And if you haven't invested the time and effort to really make it your own, put your stamp on it, I don't think it'll have the results that you want to have, and you may as well just go do something else.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, I agree, and I think that, and I think it'll become obvious. To be honest, I mean, I mean, if you just use AI and you produce a book or whatever, and there's probably people who do that probably won't even read it themselves. They'll just be, ah, looks good to me.
Yeah. Or
But
the
I
people
think
that it appeals to are not the people that you want to be working with anyway.
exactly, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, listen, this has been fascinating, Eric. I think it's a fascinating subject. All of Eric's information will be below this video, and all the information about Scribe Media. But before we go, please do just tell people a little bit more about Scribe and how they can engage with you.
Yeah, we are the leading professional publisher. We pioneered this category. If you've already written a book, we can help you publish it. If you need help writing a book, we have that is absolutely our bread and butter. We love working with entrepreneurs, executives, professionals, coaches, consultants. We'll interview you and write the book as though it is your voice, with all the appropriate checks and edits, and then we'll work you through the publishing process and ensure you have a really, really polished professional book that you can be proud of, that's going to meet your goals and be this multiplier effect on everything else
Mhm.
that you do that we've talked about. And that takes about a year, and we've got an impeccable track record of doing this and being really high leverage on your time because we know you're busy. We know you got a business to grow, but I've seen over and over again that incredible results come as a result of having a great book out there, and we're just proud to be of service.
Yeah, and like I said, I can definitely vouch for the value of doing this. So if you're considering it, I would absolutely go check out Scribe, and then ask yourself, you're prepared to put in the work. Is this what you want to
Yeah,
do, and all of that good stuff, and away you go. But it is extremely rewarding, credentialing, validating, and to be honest, even if nobody ever reads your book, but you're proud of it, hey, that's okay too.
it's quite fun. That we do have a lot of people who write a book just for their family, their community,
Yeah.
themselves, just because it's on their bucket list. And you don't have to have a goal of selling a million copies. There's a lot of people that just
Mhm.
do it to give back to their industry as they're getting close to retirement, or their company or their community, and that is wonderful and admirable as well. So scribemedia.com. We'd love to chat with you.
Absolutely. Well, listen, thanks again, Eric. Thank you for watching, listening, and I'll see you all again very soon. Thank you.